Well, let's start. Yeah, let's start with Shapiro, and then we'll go back to the debates because this is pretty great. Now, since you've left, Matt, we developed a Dropbox for encrypted information for people to leak it to us. We don't talk about it a lot because, of course, we don't want the NSA to be aware of this.
I've been ignoring Laura Poitras's emails.
Exactly. And
we don't want to hear about that shit.
There's an intricate thing that involves you got to contact us on Signal. Then we send you a Proton email address, and then we send you a fob, which you insert into your computer. And then what happens is we end up finding these YouTubes of Ben Shapiro back on with Connie Martinson on Talks Books. This is from when?
2011.
2011.
I was here then.
And you were here then. I don't know how we didn't find this at that time, but Ben Shapiro.
Because I was here then.
Yeah, right.
Ben Shapiro, exactly.
Now the job is handled with a certain degree of competence.
And where are we picking this up from the very beginning?
Both on Mr. Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, we'll take this right from this top. I think.
Okay.
I guess there was a Ben Shapiro clip on
this
Miss Ball.
Is Ben Shapiro on talking about his book about how Hollywood is chock full of liberals. And really the most interesting thing I found about this was that Ben Shapiro, like everybody else who came from Breitbart, was just mad that they did not have talent enough to break into Hollywood.
And I should shout out Some More News, Cody Johnston, who initially included part of this in his recent Ben Shapiro video.
Who knew he wanted to just write a lethal weapon vehicle?
Exactly.
Yeah. By the way, Connie ends up being very cool.
Yeah.
Where everybody's laughing.
She owns him
Since-
before the BBC guy did.
Yes, this was the first one.
The true Hollywood story of how the left overtook your TV. Primetime propaganda.
Welcome to Connie Martinson Talks Books.
She's cool.
You watch a TV show and you start laughing, but afterwards, do you think about what maybe was said or what you've been really recommended to believe? My guest today, Ben Shapiro, has written Primetime Propaganda, the true Hollywood story of how the left has made our country, took over your TV, and it's published by Harper.
I love how she wins this.
Welcome, Ben.
And thanks so much for having me.
And I guess one has to think about things we've laughed at, but you seem to pinpoint the authors of those shows as being liberal Jews.
Well, not all of them. I mean, Susan Harris is not Jewish. There are plenty
Nor
of...
is Gary Marshall.
Nor is Gary Marshall. I certainly don't say that all of them are Jewish.
Well,
There's, of
comfortable
course,
with
a
that
lot
line
of
of
Jews in
questioning.
Hollywood, but that's because there are a lot of Jews at the top of any industry. Jews happen to be very hardworking.
Well, pause it. Can we just pause it for a second? Seriously?
I don't like where this is going.
Wow, this is...
Yeah, if you actually set aside protocols of the elders of Zion, actually had a lot of legitimate ideas about Jewish work ethic.
Jews work very hard. Exactly.
Jews happen to be very hardworking.
No. It isn't just that. They have a point of view that can be considered comic and humorous.
That's true. I mean, there's a unique brand of Jewish humor, and that's been true since the beginning. I mean, go back to your show of shows. Everybody in that writer's room is a New York Jew. And that's good. I mean, this is good stuff.
Stop writing
this
our
is not a rip
coattails,
on,
Ben
on
Shapiro.
Jews. I mean, that would be ridiculous. The point, and by the way,
But
one of the points I make in the book
yeah.
is that the people who write TV are incredibly talented. That they have a political agenda, but they're very talented.
Well, let me say, I've yet to know of too many conservatives, which is where you put yourself, who are funny. I mean, it has to do with a humor that is transferable to
This is the best.
everyday
This
living.
is the best.
I mean, I utterly disagree with that. I think there can be conservatives who are funny. Liberals may not find them funny.
All right.
I mean, okay, Ann Coulter for conservatives is funny. Okay, for liberals, she's not funny. Bill Maher for liberals, hilarious. For conservatives, not funny. Okay, there's
Well, that depends because you're using politics as the form of their humor. But
Bill Cosby
I'm
is relatively conservative.
today.
That's true.
Yeah, and no, even back then. That's the idea that conservatism is inherently unfunny is not true. It's that conservatives have abandoned the playing field of humor and narrative. I'll agree with you there. I think that they've totally run away from that.
So many.
You got to pull that. Conservatives have abandoned the playing field of comedy and humor.
Well, there's so many young comedians you read, they were obsessed with the classics, with Pryor, with Carlin, with staying up all night watching vintage Saturday Night Live. But then they were like, I'm not going to go into it, though, because I'm going to seed the battlefield of comedy in the culture war.
Well, I got to say this.
That's totally the upshot of a passion for comedy.
Back when I was starting out as a stand-up, you'd hear a lot of guys and women who would come in, and you'd be late night at, Catch a Rising Star in the basement of some place in Cambridge, and people would say, like, I don't know, I feel like maybe I should just abandon the battlefield.
Did you ever say it to yourself, Sam? You're like, I don't even want to do this, but this is a vital part of the battlefield.
Did you ever say it to yourself?
I would say things to myself like, I feel like I want to get a job where I can get a consistent income, and then I was like, but I can't take the tent down in the encampment I've created on this battlefield.
Going AWOL from the battle of humor.
Who will do Gen X Andy Kaufman jokes that promote the leftist agenda?
Exactly. That actually was probably what I was saying, but go ahead.
Is not true. It's that conservatives have abandoned the playing field of humor and narrative. I'll agree with you there. I think that they've totally run away from the battle. But that doesn't mean that there's not the capacity within conservative thought to be funny.
You talk about having
tell.
conceived of the plot for a TV series and worked with Lenny Goldberg. Was that a comedy? Was it sitcom? Was it drama?
It was more of a dramedy. It was based on Harvard Law School. It was a dramedy. I've written a couple comedies, kind of hour-long dramedies for spec script.
And have they been bought?
No, because and there are a couple reasons for that. One is that it's hard to sell anything in this town.
Yeah, thank you.
Period. Regardless of political viewpoint. And the other is that, and especially a breakout series right from the get-go, right? I mean, it's hard to sell a spec script. You start as a baby writer. I mean, you know the process.
Yeah. Have you worked continually with Lenny Goldberg since?
Yeah, I worked with him for several months afterward, and then he got sidetracked with Unknown and with Blue Bloods on CBS and all of that.
I just want to understand
on you, bro.
the frame that he's there. He was working on me on all these failures, and then he got sidetracked because he got a job on a series. That was the sidetrack. He actually got hired as a professional writer, and I was not, and so he got sidetracked. He lost sense of he, in many respects, went AWOL in the war. He ceded the battlefield.
Is that like how
retreated to a paid job in writing drama?
He ceded the narrative by getting a full-time job at a prestigious show.
Is that like how Maron got sidetracked after Break Room Live?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He got sidetracked with the podcast in his garage. That's why he was talking to Obama.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we don't do the Break Room Live anymore.
He got sidetracked. I've had a lot of friends who have gotten so sidetracked by taking some type of big movie job or something. It's just a real shame to see that happen, where they lose their focus on me. So,
what I didn't understand is why he wanted to do that when we could have watched old clips of me on Spin City into eternity.
Break Room Live was just about to explode and be successful, and then he decided to get sidetracked by that other show that he's doing. So.
Yeah, like everything else in Hollywood, things go into development, and then they kind of get sidetracked. They go sideways for a while. So.
Well, do you think the book will help sort of open the door with him again?
That wasn't the point of the book, but he knew what was going on with the book. It was not a hit job on Leonard Goldberg. I treat him very well in the book. In fact, most of the people in the book I treat very well for the most part. I talk about how talented and brilliant they are. I talk about how great their shows are, which they are, and that's not a bad thing. I just point out that, look, I'm a legal realist. I'm a lawyer. I went to Harvard Law School. And in law, the idea, there's an idea that was promulgated by the left in the 1960s called legal realism. What it was is the idea that your politics are going to come out in your interpretation of law. That is the same thing that's true in art. Okay, your politics are going to come out in your creation and interpretation of art. And that's one of the points of the book. The people who I'm talking to are not bad people. A lot of them are not. Some of them are not even doing it purposefully. Some of them are doing it purposefully. But it's coming out in their work. And the one thing, above all, that Hollywood does right now that is utterly despicable is that they keep people who are not of their political ilk out of the business, period, end of story. I have them on tape admitting this. I have high-ranking members of the WGA. I have high-ranking members of the Caucus for Producers, Writers, and Directors. I have high-ranking members of the DGA. I have people talking about this openly and recognizing that it occurs.
Now, pause it. Now, I got to tell you that I was in show business. I wrote I think probably off the top of my head, 8 to 10 scripts that were commissioned by every single major network that there is, some that were, and several of the cable networks. And almost the first question, you would give what they call sort of the elevator pitch, and then you would start to go into the characters as you go into these meetings. But before you would get to any of that, you would have to tell them what your voting record was.
What happened to those scripts? They went sideways.
They went sideways. I mean, the people got
You know
sidetracked.
what it is. People get sidetracked.
A lot of these
sideways.
networks, AMC got very sidetracked. I had written a script for them, and then they just sort of pursued like The Walking Dead,
You know,
and they got sidetracked.
I would
by
love to
that.
watch you. You know what? I would love to see you write an episode of The Walking Dead. That I would be the first episode
No,
of that show to
I
watch.
wrote exclusively comedies, and then what I would call dramedies,
Dramedies?
which is what we call comedies that are not funny.
Yeah. You know what I
we
love
call
about
it.
this is that he. Okay, I didn't read this book obviously, but you know how like the Ben Shapiro we know now is like does not even have a modicum of like, well, I mean they're talented people. He's just like
Right, of
always
course.
a dick.
Right.
And so my interpretation is that this book obviously is a plea for a job. So he's calibrating like I got to get booked and talk with all the rubes and bitch about Hollywood and say that they're a bunch of unethical elitists ramming their culture down our throats, blah, blah. But at the same time, you guys are all really talented, and it would be great if I could get some work in a dramedy series.
Right.
Maybe I wouldn't have to write these stupid fucking books I started doing when I was 12.
Again, I think
He
we
should have
said
written a
this.
script about being a teen conservative prodigy and the psychosis of that. That would have been a fascinating, dark, disturbing comedy.
That would have hit too hard at home. And, but again,
would have been
this
a
is
dramedy.
something, if someone like Norman Lear, Norman Lear funded People for American Way, had he just established a $3 to $5 million endowment to periodically hire people like Ben Shapiro, keep them from actually feeling the resent that fuels their entire, new career as a conservative talker, I think we would be in much better shape. Like you could have saved millions of dollars of advocacy just by giving these guys a job and telling them like, this is great stuff.
I barely
Ben.
even know what this show is, but when I first saw Andrew Breitbart, I was like, why the hell did they not just give him talk soup?
Right, exactly.
And he wouldn't be doing this. He would just be
Right.
like, whoa, they caught up with Courtney Cox at the red carpet.
He's partly right, though. Like, art is always going to be a vehicle for ideology, and Hollywood certainly has an ideology. But of the numerous groups of people who've been kept out of Hollywood for their ideology, I'm going to guess he's not too concerned about the literal purges that happened of communists and people suspected of being communists.
No, that was cool.
She mentions that actually later in the interview. It's a good one. If you just search primetime propaganda on YouTube, it'll come up.